The following program is made possible by a grant from Pan American Life Insurance Company. It's Varsity Quiz Bowl, and today, Andre Jacques, Wilson McLeod, Nadine Lowe, and Richard Pennock from Isidore Newman School will meet in a battle of quick recall. Clark Brady, Kent Davis, Stephen Ross, and Nicholas Sloop from De La Salle High School. The alternate from Newman is Quinn Hilliard, and the coach, Kenneth McKenzie. And the alternate from De La Salle is Stephen Varner, and the coach, Barbara Thornhill. And now, here's our moderator, Mel Levin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the Varsity Quiz Bowl. We started in September with 64 teams, and now there are only 4 left. 2 of them competing today in one of the semifinals. Tomorrow, Jesuit versus St. Martin. Today, De La Salle versus Isidore Newman, as we move toward that 1-hour showdown. Before we get going, let me introduce once again our judge, Dr. Ann Akers. Our scorer is Phyllis Hartley, Associate Director of Records at the University of New Orleans, and our recognizer is Rhonda Widener, a student in communications at UNO and an intern here at WIS. Nice round of applause for these fine folks, and away we'll go. Isidore Newman, a previous champion, De La Salle runner-up last year, lost by only 5 points in the final, and we'll begin with this face-off. We're leading up now to a lagniappe at 20 points. It's almost that time again for a quick 10. Who is the former Formula One world champion and 1969 Indianapolis 500 champion? 1969.
De La Salle Ross.
Mario Andretti.
That is correct, and you're on the board. Mario Andretti for 10 points. You're entitled now to a shot at an audio lagniappe of 20. Now, before I ask the 2 basic questions, I'd like you to listen to this music. We're going to play it. Give an ear. Here we go. Here it comes. There for a while, I wasn't sure they'd gotten the music in yet, but we got it in and we got it on, and I wonder if you can now tell me the answer to these questions. Number 1, the title of the comic opera about one of the German guilds organized for cultivation of music and poetry. And then, for another 10, name the great German composer of this music. And he also composed Tristan and Isolde and Parsifal. All right, you got a double-barreled one here. Number 1, we'll ask for an answer.
It's Wagner.
Correct, for 10.
The Rheingold?
No, this was the Meistersinger, or the Master Singers. You picked up 10 points, however. De La Salle. And you now have 20. Moving along now, we have a face-off. We're going for a lagniappe at 20. The International Longshoremen's Association called a 24-hour boycott last Friday. For 10 points, can you tell me why?
De La Salle Sloop.
Because of the death of Bobby Sands.
That's right. They protested the death of Bobby Sands. De La Salle scores again. Here's a 20-point lagniappe for 10 points apiece. Who won last Sunday's presidential election in France? And to what party does he belong?
Mitterrand, the Socialist Party.
You're correct in both counts. You got 20 more. De La Salle. We have another face-off. We're going for a lagniappe at 20 now, teams. For 10 points, what river flows through Hanoi? And another river with the same name was also...
Newman, McLeod.
Red River.
You're correct. The Red River for 10 points. And Newman's on the board. Another river, I was going to say, the same name also immortalized in that famous cowboy song. Lagniappe at 20 points coming up. Some of the most important events in recent history have been conferences between nations. Now, often these conferences are known by the place of the meeting. So for 10 points apiece, can you name the conference place of one where the Charter for the United Nations was adopted in 1945?
San Francisco.
Correct for 10. All right, you're up to 20. You got a chance at 10 more. The mansion in Washington, D.C., where the Charter of the UN was drafted. Famous mansion.
Dunbarton Oaks.
That's right, it is. Dunbarton Oaks, 20 points in all for Newman. Newman now trails by 20, 50 to 30. Here's a face-off. We're going for a lagniappe at 20. Most Americans know that Thomas Jefferson's estate was called Monticello. For 10 points, which of his successors as president lived on an estate called Montpelier? Montpelier.
Newman, Jacques. Madison?
That's right. Madison it was. Newman adds 10 more, and they have a chance to tie if they answer one of the next two questions and go ahead if they answer both. The Lagniappes for 20. Two of the world's greatest writers died on April 23rd, 1616, for 10 points each. Name them.
Cervantes and Shakespeare.
You're right. Both of them. You're going ahead. In hours of each other on the same day in 1616, and Newman's gone ahead 60-50. Here's a face-off, going for a Lagniappe at 25 this time. He said, "Oh, mother, I was born to die soon, but Olympian Zeus the Thunderer owes me some honor for it." For 10 points, correctly identify one of the heroes of the Iliad.
Salle Davis.
Achilles.
That's correct, for 10 points. You got a Lagniappe at 25 points. It's in 5 parts. Portrait in Black and Gray is the title of the picture we know better as Whistler's Mother. For 5 points each, identify the following people associated with the word gray. Number 1, the famous writer of novels set in the Wild West.
Cooper.
No, Zane Grey. Zane Grey. Secondly, the nickname of Confederate Colonel John S. Mosby. What did they call him?
Grey Panther.
No, he was known as the Grey Ghost. Number 3, proclaimed Queen of England in 1553. She reigned for
Lady
just
Jane
9.
Grey.
That's correct, for 5. For 5 more. Tarzan of the Apes English title. Name and title.
Lord
I refer to Mr. Brady.
Name and
Lord
title.
Greystoke.
What's that?
Lord Greystoke.
No, it's Lord Greystone. Finally, the cartoonist who originally drew Little Orphan Annie. Full name, please, was Harold Gray. You picked up 5 more points. De La Salle. Leading now by 5, 65-60. Here's a Lagniappe of 30. On Channel 12 last Thursday, television took a look at journalists, newspapers, and magazines with the program Inside Story. For 10 points.
Newman, McLeod.
Harding Carter.
That's correct. Harding Carter. Harding Carter the third, to be precise. But we're not going to nitpick on that. We know Harding Carter as we see him. Here we go, a Lagniappe of 30 points. Of course, his father was a very famous newspaper man as well. Bruce Catton is associated with books about the Civil War in America. For 10 points each, tell me with which conflict the following historians have become closely associated. First, Thomas Carlyle. With which conflict?
French Revolution.
That's right, for 10. Now for 10 more, Sir George Otto Trevelyan. Trevelyan, T-R-E-V-E-L-Y-A-N. Recognize the name.
World War I.
No, he was associated with the American Revolutionary War, I presume from the British point of view. And finally, Herodotus, considered the father of history by some.
Persian Wars.
That's right, Persian or Peloponnesian, either one. 20 points. Newman leading 90-65, another face-off. We're going for a Lagniappe of 20. Insulin is a hormone that is produced in the human pancreas. For 10 points, what are the pancreatic cells that produce insulin?
De La Salle Ross.
Islands of Langerhans.
That's right. Islands of Langerhans. Sometimes also known as beta or beta cells. One way or another, you picked up 10. Here's a chance at 20 more. You could go back ahead if you answer both. A Frenchman and a Spaniard, De La Salle, are considered to be the leaders of the Cubist movement in art. For 10 points each, can you name them, the Frenchman and the Spaniard?
Picasso. Cézanne.
Picasso is correct. He was the Spaniard. The Frenchman generally recognized as Georges Braque, but you picked up 10 more, and you're up to 85, trailing by 5 points only. The seesaw match. And with that, well, we're going to have to move into a rapid-fire round. The score stands. De La Salle, 85. Isidore Newman, 90. In the rapid fire, as you know, we have a 2-minute countdown. It's 10 points if you answer correctly, minus 5 if you don't. Incorrect. There are no referrals, of course, only one answer, remember, per question. I'm sure you know that well after 4 rounds of playing this game, both teams. Today's rapid fire will be a kind of potpourri, covering anything and everything. They can come at you from any direction, any discipline, doesn't matter what they start with. Ready? Here we go. Number 1. River dividing Manchuria from North Korea.
Newman, McLeod.
Yalu.
Correct for 10. French sculptor who created the thinker.
De La Salle Sloop.
Rodin.
Correct. Offspring of genetically different parentage.
De La Salle Ross.
Mutant.
No, hybrid. Rogers and Hart based this musical on Shakespeare's Comedy of Errors. Anyone? It's the Boys from Syracuse, an old one. Its chemical symbol is SB. SB.
De La Salle Ross.
Antimony.
That is correct. U.S. President during the Mexican-American War.
Newman, McLeod.
Polk.
Correct. Most valuable cash crop in Louisiana.
Newman, Jock. Sugarcane.
No, it's now soybean. He wrote Solace and the Entertainer.
De La Salle Sloop.
Scott Joplin.
Correct. Author of The Dragons of Eden.
De La Salle Davis.
Carl Sagan.
Correct. Union of gametes produces a what?
De La Salle Ross.
Zygote.
That's right. This he and she musical duo did Keeping Our Love Warm. Captain and Tennille. This painter's best known work is probably American Gothic.
Newman Jacques.
Grant Wood.
That's correct. Name for body tissue made up mostly of fat-storing cells.
Newman Pinnock.
Lipid.
No, adipose. U.S. president during the War of 1812. Anyone?
De La Salle Ross.
Monroe.
No, it's James Madison. Broadway show about a salesman of musical instruments in a small Iowa town.
Newman Jacques.
The Music Man. Arm of the Mediterranean Sea lying between Italy and Yugoslavia.
Newman McLeod.
Adriatic.
That's correct. Large tributary of the Mississippi flowing through Shreveport.
Newman McLeod.
Red River.
Red River again. The composer of what is known as the water music.
De La Salle Sloop.
Handel.
That's right. To what did Harrison Salisbury's 900 Days refer? The 900 Days was what? Siege of Leningrad. The Dominican monk of the Renaissance who painted the Annunciation was called?
Fra Angelico.
That's right. The disaccharide or disaccharide, also known as table sugar, is called sucrose. Would you believe the score is tied? Incredible. A beautiful first half. These are two, well, need I say more, remarkably balanced teams. The score is 135 to 135. Obviously, the game will start after we return or continue, as the case may be. Stay tuned. We'll be talking to these youngsters about, well, what they're going to be doing in the future.
It's lucky I lost consciousness.
Well, the score is tied at 135, and we'll get underway with the second half in just a moment. Right now at our intermission for halftime, we're going to ask the contestants kind of a strange question, projecting yourself into the future. Andre's over there. She can't wait to get out her crystal ball and tell us what she thinks she's going to be doing, right, in 10 years.
Well, I'd like to be sitting in a metropolis of my own design, full of light and space and beautiful forms and all the things important to an architect.
That's right, because you have a scholarship in architecture.
Yes, sir.
At Tulane. That's marvelous. Wilson, how about you? Where are you going to be sitting?
I'm going to be fighting for social justice in Washington.
Bravo. We need more men with principle and ideals. How about you?
Okay, I'm going to be in a small South American embassy, serving my country.
Very good. All right. Richard?
Well, I'll probably either still be in graduate school or out of graduate school and making lots and lots of money in government research.
Right. And helping finance these people in their dreams, huh? I'm only kidding. Believe me. People like this, we depend on in the future, and that goes without saying. And if they don't have ideals and dreams and principles, Lord help the country. De La Salle, Clark Brady, what are you going to be doing 10 years from now as you look ahead and project into the future?
Well, I plan to be living in an underground house somewhere where the earth is dry and the sky is clear, and regularly appearing on the Johnny Carson Show and or Nova.
I'm afraid he has a clear vision of the future, and I'm afraid to ask another question, so I'll ask Kent what he's going to be doing.
Hopefully I'll be practicing some type of medicine. Other than that, I have no idea.
But you are, you're going to pre-med, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. How about you,
Well, I hope to maybe be writing for either newspaper or magazine somewhere.
His interests are literary, obviously. Steve Ross. And how about you, Nicholas?
I'd like to be the captain of the nuclear aircraft carrier USS Nimitz.
Soon to be renamed the Sloop. I love it. All right. That was enjoyable. Now we get down to business once again. The score, Isidore Newman 135, De La Salle 135. Our first face-off will be a visual one. We're leading up to a lanyap of 30 points. So we'd like you to please direct your attention to the monitors in front of you here in the studio. And you'll see a picture entitled Portrait of Anne of Cleves by King Henry VIII of England. For 10 points, can you name this German
Newman
painter?
Hans Holbein.
That's right. Hans Holbein in England. I inadvertently had King Henry painting his first portrait, and he's been dead a long time, so I don't think he came back. He commissioned it. And Andre knew it, and you got 10 points. You broke the tie. Newman has a chance at 30 more. It's an interesting local question if you've been keeping up with the headlines. There are 3 passenger trains that currently operate out of Louisiana. 3. All three originate here in New Orleans and are operated by Amtrak. Now, for 5 points apiece, name the trains. For another 5 apiece, name their final destinations. All right, we'll give you a few more seconds to compile your list. The 3 passenger trains and the destinations that come out of Louisiana. Wilson?
Okay, one of them is the Panama Limited, and it goes to Washington. Another goes to Chicago, and another goes to Dallas.
Well, I'm not sure how we can sort that one out. The Panama Limited is correct for 5. It does not go to Washington, it goes to Chicago. Los Angeles is the Sunset Limited, and the Crescent goes to New York City. How many points do we get on that? They had 2 cities, I believe, but one of them was out of order. Rather than stall the game, we're going to put that under consideration here. The judge will have to make a final determination because we didn't allow you to know whether we wanted them linked specifically. We have another face-off. We're going for Lanyap at 35, but the game must proceed. The base-robbing king of the 1960s was fired last Wednesday as skipper of the Seattle Mariners for 10 points.
De La Salle Davis.
Lou Brock.
No, I'm afraid that's incorrect. We'll repeat for his.
Newman McLeod.
Maury Wills.
Won't have to. Maury Wills is correct for 10 points. All right. You got a 35-point lanyap, and I'm going to limit your time on this lanyap to 20 seconds, but I'll give you 5 points for each of the 7 dwarves in Snow White that you could name. Sounds like a real final exam question for a senior, doesn't it? Go. 7 in all. You get 5 points for each and every one you can give me.
Sleepy, grumpy, dope. Okay, Dopey, Doc, Grumpy, Happy, Sneezy, Sleepy,
and one more would be Bashful. You got 6 of them, though. 30 points for Isidore Newman. We have another face-off. We're going for a lanyap at 20. It's a commonly used combining form, meaning sulfur. And it's used especially in chemistry to indicate a sulfur-containing compound. Now, for 10 points, what's this 4-letter prefix that comes from the Greek word for brimstone? 4-letter prefix.
De La Salle Brady.
Pyro.
No. Newman, can you take it? Anyone? It's Theo or Thio. T-H-I-O is the common prefix. We have another face-off. He's the quintessential English bon vivant, whose latest book is an autobiography entitled The Wanton Chase. For 10 points, can you name him? English bon vivant, writer, all-around
Newman
good
McLeod.
fellow.
Peter Ustinov.
No, I'm afraid that's incorrect. De La Salle, can you take it?
De La Salle Ross.
David Niven.
No, his name is Peter Quinnell. Peter Quinnell. We have another face-off. What famous New York political organization was named for a chief in Delaware Indian?
Newman McLeod.
Tammany Hall.
You're right. It's named after Tammany. Great Delaware chieftain. And incidentally, so was Saint Tammany, although the Indian, to our knowledge, was not a saint. Lanyap of 20 points for 5 apiece. Name the famous ship from the description I will give you. 4 points. First, the battleship where the Japanese formally surrendered in World War II was what?
Missouri.
That's correct for 5. For 5 more, the first manned orbiting American spacecraft. Significantly named Friendship 7.
Friendship 1.
The first nuclear-powered submarine was called what? It was the Nautilus. Nautilus. And number 4, the ship whose destruction helped trigger our entry into the Spanish-American War.
Maine.
It was. You've got 2, and that's 10 more points for Newman. We have another face-off. We're going for a lanyap at 20 points. His 4-day official visit to President Reagan ended a week ago on Saturday.
Suzuki.
No, I'm afraid that's not the answer we're looking for, and you'll know when we repeat the question in its entirety. Newman, his 4-day official visit to President Reagan ended a week ago on Saturday is considered a successful preliminary to meetings on defense to be held in June in Hawaii. For 10 points, who does this prime minister represent?
Newman McLeod.
Japan.
Japan is correct. All right. Here again, one of the perils of interrupting sometimes is that you misread the question since you don't even know what the full question is. But here's a lanyap at 20. I'm going to name 4 states, and I'm going to give you 4 dates. For 5 points apiece, tell me which date matches the date of admission of each of the states into the Union. The states are Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, and Vermont. The dates are 1791, 1792, 1796, and 1803. Now, can you match dates and states?
Vermont was the earliest.
We'll give you a brief period of time for consultation and then ask for one list from the captain, please. We got Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, Vermont, 91, 92, 96, and 1803. It'll ask for an answer, please.
Go.
Okay, Vermont was 1791, Kentucky 1796, Tennessee, 1792, and Ohio, 1803.
Now, this is frequently misread, and I'll tell you why. Vermont is usually assumed to have been the first. They were the last in that order. Actually, none of those were right. 1791 was Kentucky, 1792 Ohio, 1796 Tennessee, and Vermont was last, 1803.
Didn't we say something?
All right, we'll move on now to another face-off. We're going for a lagniappe at 20. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote a short story featuring a
Newman,
fictional
McLeod.
Little Prince.
We'll accept that. The Prince, that's correct. Wait. Judge says no. The full question. All right. Well, we'll read the whole question very briefly and then proceed. And here again, the judge is the final arbiter. It's featuring a fictional little man with a royal title. You name the 15th century political treatise written by Machiavelli. And we can't give it to you because I've already read it. Bearing a similar title, The Prince. All right. My error. We have another face-off. We're going for a lagniappe at 20. A stretch of land spanning an area from east of New Orleans across South Louisiana to the Texas border has become...